A former prime minister outside her country, living in a neighboring country, facing serious legal proceedings and a conviction at home. And now, a declaration. I will return to Dhaka in December. Sheikh Hasina made that announcement from New Delhi. But the real question is not simply, will Sheikh Hasina return to Dhaka? The bigger question is, if she does return, what happens to Bangladesh? And if India continues to allow her to conduct political activities from Indian soil, where does that leave India-Bangladesh relations? Because Bangladesh has formally objected to India, questioning why a former prime minister facing serious legal proceedings in Bangladesh is being allowed to make political statements from Indian territory. This is no longer just about Sheikh Hasina. It is becoming a diplomatic fault line between two neighbors. And the biggest question is Sheikh Hasina return actually possible? Or is this announcement a political strategy to keep pressure on Dhaka? This is tonight's The Pivot, and I am Ali Furqan. Sheikh Hasina says she will return in December, but how? There are criminal cases, legal proceedings, and an arrest warrant. So, if she lands in Dhaka, does she walk straight back into politics? Or does she walk straight into custody? This is the question that remains unanswered. And there is another question. Does Hasina actually intend to return? Or is the announcement designed to keep her supporters mobilized, keep the Awami League politically relevant, and put pressure on the government in Dhaka? Because political parties can survive without one leader. But when that leader has dominated politics for more than a decade, what happens to that party when the leader is outside the country? Has Bangladesh moved beyond Sheikh Hasina? Or is Bangladesh still politically living in her shadow? And then there is India. India has allowed Sheikh Hasina to remain in the country. That is one thing. But allowing her to make political speeches from Indian soil is another. That is precisely where Bangladesh has raised serious objections. If Hasina remains in India, makes political statements about Bangladesh, addresses her supporters, challenges the legitimacy of the current government, and announces her return, how should Dhaka interpret that? Humanitarian protection by a neighboring country? Or interference in Bangladesh domestic politics? For India, this is not an easy calculation either. Because Sheikh Hasina is not simply a former prime minister. She was one of India's most important regional partners. During her years in power, India-Bangladesh relations became particularly close. Security cooperation, trade, connectivity, and strategic coordination all expanded significantly. But now, New Delhi faces a difficult choice. Is protecting a long-time ally becoming more costly than maintaining a stable relationship with the current government in Dhaka? And this is where the Hasina issue becomes much bigger than one person. But now New Delhi faces a difficult choice. Is protecting a long-time ally becoming more costly than maintaining a stable relationship with the current government in Dhaka? And this is where the Hasina issue becomes much bigger than one person. Because Bangladesh is asking India, what is your position? Are you simply providing shelter? Or are you allowing a former leader to continue influencing Bangladesh's politics from Indian territory? And if the answer is the latter, then Dhaka has every reason to worry about the future of its relationship with New Delhi. But there is another side of the story. The question of justice. Bangladesh's current authorities say the abuse of the past must be investigated and those responsible must be held accountable. Hasina faces hundreds of cases, including serious allegations involving killing. But Hasina and her supporters argue that their proceedings are politically motivated. So the question becomes, what does accountability end and political revenge begin? If a former Prime Minister faces criminal charges, the courts should decide. That is the basic principle of the rule of law. But if the legal system is being used to eliminate a political opponent, that is equally dangerous. Because today, one government can use law against its opponent. Tomorrow, another government can do exactly the same thing. So the real test is not only about Sheikh Hasina. It is about Bangladesh's institutions. And there is also another important question. Has Bangladesh actually moved beyond Sheikh Hasina? It may be tempting to say her political career is finished. But Bangladesh's political reality is more complicated. So, if she does return, Bangladesh could face a new political confrontation. Her supporters could mobilize, her opponent could protest, and the streets of Dhaka could once again become the center of political conflict. And that brings us to the bigger question. What happens to India-Bangladesh relations? Because this is not just about Dhaka and New Delhi. It is about South Asia. For India, Bangladesh is not just another neighbor. It is strategically important for India's northeast border security, trade, water sharing, and regional connectivity. So if the Hasina issue pushes India and Bangladesh further apart, the obvious question is, does Dhaka move closer to Beijing? And then, does this create new space for Pakistan-Bangladesh relations? This is something Islamabad will be watching closely, because the balance of power in South Asia is not only about India and Pakistan anymore. Dhaka matters too. And any major shift in Bangladesh foreign policy could reshape the regional equation. Think about it. A Bangladesh that becomes more distant from India could seek stronger relationship with China. It could look for partner engagement with Pakistan. It could diversify its strategic partnership. And India would then have to manage a much more complicated neighborhood. So, Sheikh Hasina's December announcement may affect consequences far beyond Bangladesh. It may affect India's regional strategy, China's influence in South Asia, Pakistan-Bangladesh relations, and the wider balance of power in the region. So the central question of today's pivot is not simply, will Sheikh Hasina return? December will tell us that. The immediate question is Hasina's political activity from New Delhi creating a new crisis between India and Bangladesh? Is India protecting a long-time ally or creating a new line of tensions with Bangladesh? And most importantly, what happens if Sheikh Hasina actually reaches Dhaka in December? Will she be arrested? Will the Awami League return to the streets? Could political tensions once again turn into mass protests? And if that happens, where will the consequences be felt? In Dhaka, in New Delhi, or across South Asia? December will tell us whether Sheikh Hasina actually returned to Dhaka, but the consequences of her announcement has already begun. Because this is no longer only a question of one former Prime Minister. It is a question of India's relationship with Bangladesh, Bangladesh's political future, and the balance of power in South Asia. And that is exactly why Sheikh Hasina's next move matters far beyond Dhaka. I am Ali Furqan, and this was The Pivot. Thank you for watching.